have something so fun to share with you guys today. It is the Indescribable Atlas Adventures. This is a brand new book by Louis Giglio. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, but we love his books. We have 2 of his devotionals and I use them all the time, and I can share more about that later. But when Faith Gateway asked me if I could share this with you guys, I in a heartbeat said yes. I love the way that this information is presented, and it's a really great fit for my kids, and it just keeps things really simple. So I want to tell you a little bit about it, and then I'm going to show you inside, and then I also am going to share some ideas that I have, because of course I just start, like, my brain starts spinning of all the little things I could do and all the books that I could read to go along with it. So stick around. We're going to take a look at this. I'm going to tell you a little bit about his devotions, and we'll go from there. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jamie, and I am a homeschooling mom of 4. This is Simply Learning Together, where I share all kinds of homeschool things. I love to talk about curriculum. I love to talk about what's working for us, and I especially love sharing kind of our routine and how we try to keep things simple. Today, I'm so pumped to share this new book with you, but to start it out, I want to talk a little bit about these devotionals. We have 2 of them. One is Indescribable and one is How Great Is Our God. I had these from the beginning when we started homeschooling 5 years ago, and they are so great for a couple of reasons. Number 1, they're super kid friendly. Number 2, if you've never had devotions with your family before, and maybe you're just like, oh, I don't know, this could be tricky, I don't know if I can answer these questions, these are a great way to start. They're very simple to read, they're fun, they're interesting, and it's going to connect to something in nature, science, certain things like that that can really give you really great discussion. And I love the way that the information is presented. I pull it out all the time. A lot of times we've already read through them, but I'll still pull them out again if I'm in between devotions and I don't really know what I'm going to do next. I'll just pull these out because they're super easy. We have also used them in a science unit. One of these devotionals is organized by topic. So one year I did all of our science units and I added in the devotions about that topic. So for example, we did a space unit, and while we were studying space, I read all the space devotions. Oh yes, it's this one, How Great Is Our God. So he has space, earth, animals, and people. And so it was great because I just added that in. I might have a video about that somewhere, so if I can find it, I'll link it here. But super fun to do that. The other thing I love is using it for really special days. For example, like a solar eclipse. We've had one here recently where we could view it, and I pulled this out, thought surely there's a devotion on a solar eclipse. So that day, sure enough, there was. I read it linked everything together. So it's just a really nice, handy resource. So when I heard that he wrote an Atlas adventure, I was so excited because I feel like I'm slacking in the geography department. So this was kind of like a way to do it. And I just love so much how he presents his information and how family friendly it is. And so I just had to see it. So what I'm going to do is, you can see this book is a doozy. Like, it is a lot bigger than the devotionals, but it's so cool. This is full of information. I'm going to show you how it's set up. And then if you want to stick around, I can show you where my brain's at, because I'm now thinking, okay, maybe I need to add in a geography loop this year and figure out how I can incorporate this somehow. So I'll share my thoughts on that as well. All right, let's take a look. This is the front cover, and there's so much stuff to look at, even in the front. So we'll start with that. First, we have our table of contents. How cute is that? And then if you keep going, you've got an introduction, and then we've got a world map. Now, it's going to start with the continents. So the first one is North America. So you've got information about North America, and you can see there is so much little tidbit of information here. And then it'll go into each country in that continent. So this would be an example of Canada. In each country description, he's got animals, he's got different landforms, he talks about faith. He even has little verses that you can refer to. Here we've got the flag. I love these key facts. Talks about language, capital city, tree, bird, the dish, so it talks about food. And then they also have this fun little learn the language section where you can try and say some of these phrases. So I will just kind of flip some pages. Here's the United States. A lot of them are double page like this, but he does put some together with another country, and I will kind of show you how that is. It also looks like he has bonus pages. So for example, here they're talking about the Amazon rainforest, and then you can turn, and then there's kind of like a detailed up close look about that specific thing. And I saw another one in here as well about a desert. So there are some little bonus pages like that. Here would be an example where he kind of combines two together. So we've got Saudi Arabia and Jordan. You can see here, both countries are listed here in this key facts. There is just so much to look at, so much to learn. I can think of 100 different rabbit trails that you could go on with this. All right, so we're getting to the end of it. You have an index at the end. Wasn't that so cool? I feel like you could look at this book for hours. When I received it, my kids right away were at the table just looking at all the pictures, asking hundreds of questions. Here's what I think that you could do with this that I think would be really cool. Number one, the simplest form of how to use it is just keeping it as a resource on your shelf. I mean, anytime you are studying a country or something comes up in a story that you're reading, it would be a great book to refer to. If you wanted to take it a little bit further, I feel like there's so much that you could do with it without having kind of like a curriculum to tell you what to do. But let's take a look at one of the countries. Let's look at Mexico. There is so much stuff in here. There's animals, there's volcanoes, there's plants. You could go off on little rabbit trails looking at each of those. You could look at the different people that are in here. Maybe there's a book about them that is really good from the library, or you just kind of want to learn more about them. There are so many ways that you could expand this. Of course, what I would want to do is eat the food. So the dish for Mexico is mole, which I've never made before, and I honestly don't know if I could, but I guarantee you I could Google some type of recipe to help me make it in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it won't be the traditional way, but I can just talk about it with my kids. So I think that there's just so many things that you could do with it. You could learn so much about the country in that way. You could print out a picture of the flag and color it. I mean, it's just that simple. Maybe you do that while you're reading it. Practice the little phrases that he says, and then they're learning all these little pieces of language. So I just really, really love that. There's, on each page, each different country, he's got little Bible verses. So for Mexico, it says, "Did you know Mexico City was built on a lake and the city sinks a little each year?" That shows how important it is to build important things on a solid foundation. And then he refers to Matthew chapter 7. Jesus reminded us that we also need to build our lives on a solid foundation. You could talk about that for 15 minutes or more. I mean, you could do a whole devotion on that. So I love that there are so many places that you could take this. And if you were comfortable doing that, just kind of, oh, wow, what is a flying squirrel? Let's learn about it. That is definitely a way that you could go. Now, I picked my family subjects already, and I was not planning on doing this. However, once I received it, I thought, oh, this is really kind of cool. So I'm trying to think to myself, okay, how can I add this in simply? How can I do it to where it's not going to add stress and it will bring joy? The thing that comes to my mind is a once a week type of study. So for example, maybe we do a country each month. That means we're definitely not going to get through this, but that's okay. We're going to learn something. I imagine I would start the month by reading through these pages and figuring out what are my kids interested in. And then once I can see that, maybe the next week we read a little bit more about that specific thing. So once again, looking at Mexico, because we've got a thorough look at that here on the screen. Let's say my kids are like, a flying squirrel. What is a flying squirrel? Does it really fly? Last week, my daughter literally checked out a book about flying squirrels. So I could go back, check that out, and I could read it to them. It could be a fun story, like a fictional story about a flying squirrel, or it could be a nonfiction one. I think you could really go either way. So maybe one week I do that. My kids love birds. Maybe the next week we take a look at this national bird, a golden eagle, and then we could maybe watch a video or read a book. It doesn't have to be a big planned ordeal. We don't need worksheets. We don't need crafts unless we want it. We could just read about it or just watch something about it, and we're going to be learning about it. So that's what, 2 or 3 weeks? There's something in here about volcanoes. You can find so much information about volcanoes. You can find videos on YouTube, volcanoes for kids. You can find books at the library about volcanoes. You could take it even further and you could make a volcano. You know those science experiments that you did with the little baking soda and vinegar? Just, make it and you put it in there and it explodes. And then you have science. So there's so many things that you could do. So how do I think I might add it? I might do just a once a week thing and focus on it for a month. Figure out what do they want to learn more about that week and just go from there. And of course, we're not going to cover everything on this page, but that's not the point. The point is just to get exposed to the country, where it is on a map, what we could find there, and go from there. And then at the end of the month, when we go the next month, we can move to another country. And then we've got a whole different set of things to look at. I mean, there's just so much. And of course, I would hope to maybe add in some of these national dishes because I love connecting food with what we're learning. It's just so much fun. So that's how I see it happening at my house. It's going to have to be a play it by ear because obviously this is something new, but it's just proof that how simple you can make things with just a really great resource. So that's what I hope to do here. Shoot for maybe a country a month and go based off of our interests. I hope that look through really helped you see inside what this book has to offer. And I hope that you can really kind of open your mind to, wow, this can take you a lot of places. And literally, and I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely a good resource to add to your shelf. But if you wanted to take it further and maybe learn a little bit more together as a family, that's totally doable as well. I hope that look through was helpful to you guys. I hope just kind of bouncing ideas off of you. This is kind of me just thinking out loud. I hope that kind of allows you to see what you can do with it. I'm going to link the book down below in the description, and if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments.